place where it's comfortable and appropriate for you to do so, please close your eyes and begin to take some slow, long, deep, relaxing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. With every inhale, feel more light and peace entering your body and your mind. And with every exhale, just like gravity, take away all tension from your body and your mind, along with anything you do not want. Inhaling peace and exhaling letting go. We picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain in the center of a circular grove of trees. In the center of our circle, a bonfire blazes forth, lighting us and the grove up with a sacred golden light. We recognize that this is the light of perfect love and perfect trust, and it burns away everything that is not like itself, leaving us safe and pure. Into this sacred space, we invoke the presence of our Creator. To many of us, our Creator reveals themselves as a mother and father, a god and goddess. Into this sacred space, we also invite the presence of our angels, our teachers, our guides. We ask that they join with us and that we be guided and led as we walk upon the way, becoming happier, more peaceful, more gracious, more healthy, more prosperous, and more loving people. Thank you very much, and if it's appropriate for you to do so, out loud you can join me in saying, "Blessed be." So today we are working on sphere number 7 on the Hermetic Tree of Life, and the divine name on that sphere is YHVH Tzabaoth, or Tetragrammaton Tzabaoth. Tetragrammaton literally means God is, and Tzabaoth means of hosts, or the hosts. You can think in terms of the angelic host as being a type of army in the mind of the ancient people. But remember that for infinite intelligence, an army is an army that brings peace. An army that brings peace, an army that brings blessing, an army that brings perfection. So the host of angels is like an army from the ancient perspective, but infinite intelligence doesn't attack. Infinite intelligence doesn't even truly defend, although it can seem like we are getting our defense from infinite intelligence in this world. But infinite intelligence only blesses. So sphere number 7 is the sphere called Netzach. And victory is how it's often translated. It actually means eternity. And that's why it's victorious, is it outlives everything else. That's why the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek are victorious on the earth because they just outlast it all. Peace is what exists after all the tension is gone. Right? You can only relax so far, and then you're done. All you can do when you relax is let go of tension, but you can't let go of peace. You can only obscure peace. So that's another way that you can think of how sphere number 7 is victory. Victory not meaning victorious by fighting, but it's that which is underlying everything. Now, on a planetary level, Venus is the ruler of sphere number 7. And as such, if you think in terms of goddesses, the Venusian goddesses are not mother goddesses. They are goddesses of beauty. They are goddesses of love. They could even be considered, if you're thinking in terms of the triple goddess, as the maiden. Sphere number 7 deals with all of the arts and all of creativity, the creative urges in humanity. If you want to take a look also at on the Tree of Life, how the top 3 spheres, that's a triad, Eheye, sphere number 1, sphere number 2, and Yehovah Elohim, sphere number 3, that's a triad. They call that the supernal triad. Then you can look at another triad as being 4, 5, and 6. And then this would start another triad at 7, 8, and 9. And a lot of us will look at that and we'll think, oh, I see. So sphere number 1, 2, and 3, that's sort of like the supernal Godhead. And then 4, 5, and 6 are the beginnings of creation from that. And 7, 8, and 9 are how that creation is put into humanity, how we experience the divine as human beings. And so in that way, you could think of YHVH Tzabaoth as being a prism of what happens with the light of the sunlight on sphere number 6. It's scattered into the rest of the tree as unique in individual souls. Now, sphere number 7 is all creativity. All creativity. And just think about how creative you are. A lot of times people think of creativity as having a great amount of artistic talent. That does exist here, but everybody's an artist on some level. You couldn't exist in this world without being creative. And on sphere number 7, we are reminded that our entire life is a work of art. Now, whether it's an enjoyable work of art or not depends on us, but everything that you look at in your life on some level or another is something that you have created. It's your projection. It's your mind being projected onto the screen of space. So you as an artist exists as your life. So if you think of yourself as maybe a painter and you're painting these things that you're experiencing. So some of us are painting horrific experiences in our lives. Some people are painting very benign and beautiful things. Some of us are painting things that go along with what everybody else wants us to paint. Some of us are painting things that are very unique and individualistic, and some of us are painting things which are self-abusive. If you take a minute and you look at all of the manifestations of your life, and even if you don't believe that you're the creator of them, just use it as a context for a moment and just say, if I were an artist and this were my canvas, what kinds of thoughts would I have to be thinking in order to want to create this for myself? This is just an exercise. We're not blaming you if you have problems, none of that. As the artist of my life, what kinds of motivations, what kinds of ideas, what kinds of thoughts would I have to be harboring in order to want to paint this for myself? And just think about it, see what you get. And then those thoughts that you get are valuable jewels. They're valuable tools that you can use to say, well, now if I want to transform these experiences that I'm having, I need to change those thoughts. Because if I don't change those thoughts, I'm just going to keep painting the same kinds of things over and over again. Because we do that by rote. You know, we're these great artists, but we're sort of stuck in this mindless painting that we do. We don't even realize that we're doing it half the time because we've gotten so used to painting our lives the way they are. So ask yourself, you can even just take one thing at a time. Look at your interpersonal relationships with people. Are you having trouble with somebody? Well, ask the artist within you, what kind of thoughts am I harboring that makes me want to paint this relationship the way it is? What kinds of thoughts am I harboring that makes me want to paint the financial picture that I'm experiencing? And again, don't blame yourself. Don't get into that. Just use it as an exercise and just see what you get. Perhaps you're having trouble with your mate and you're having big fights and things like that. Well, what kinds of thoughts do I have about myself and the world that make me want to paint the picture that way? And you might just sit with that and ask and just say, well, I think that the world is a dangerous place. I think that I never get my needs met. I think that I have to fight in order to get what I want. I think that I don't deserve a happy relationship because I'm a bad person. Those kinds of things, if you really allow the deep thoughts to bubble up when you ask yourself these questions, what kind of thoughts am I thinking to make me want to paint these things? When they bubble up, you could even jot those down and say, wow, I've got some things I can work on here. So if you came up with that idea of, I don't deserve good relationships because I'm a bad person, you may not consciously believe that, but if that came up, look at that. Look at that and say, well, maybe that thought does exist there. What would happen if I changed that thought? What would happen if I changed my mind about that thought? And then you can work on that. You can work on changing that thought. For instance, if you had that, I don't deserve happy relationships because I'm a bad person, you could just do like we do with the waning moon flips in our Beyond the Basics course. I'm a good person. I deserve happy relationships because I'm a good person. Now, that may not be enough to just flip it around like that, but it's a start. But if you started to think in terms of that, now I'm a good person and I deserve healthy, happy relationships. Notice what that brings up. Notice your first response to that. As you work with these ideas, notice that your desire to paint things differently occurs. Your desire to paint things in a new way starts to occur. And so that painter within you, or that artist within you, that architect within you, the sculptor within you, whatever it is that is actually projecting things onto the screen of space, it starts to get new ideas about how to project those things onto the screen of space. And you know that that's basically what magic is, right? Magic is not so much changing reality, but changing our experience of reality, because reality can't be changed. Reality is what it is. Reality cannot be changed, but our experience of reality can be changed, because what we experience and call reality is often very, very different than what reality is, because we have been painting over reality. We've been projecting onto the screen of space our beliefs, but our beliefs are very frequently nothing to do with what's real. And so when we're working on sphere number 7, where we can see how our own creativity is used, and oftentimes used against ourselves, very frequently used against ourselves. And we can start to think, wow, if I can create these experiences that are so unsatisfying or painful, I could just as easily create experiences that were satisfying and pleasurable. Maybe I could even paint things that are identical to the truth. Think in terms of a photorealist painter, somebody that can see a person's face, and when they paint it, when they sketch it and then they paint it, it looks like a photograph. Well, you can get that good as far as being able to have your experience of the world be identical to what infinite intelligence experience is for you, rather than painting over reality something that is at odds with the will of the universe for you. If you think in terms of sphere number 7 as being goddesses who have nothing to do with anything other than beauty and oftentimes seduction. So sphere number 7 is our ability to seduce and be seduced. That's almost one of the negative sides of sphere number 7. Is that we tend to be guided by our lusts and our ability to seduce and manipulate on sphere number 7. And that's why so often what we paint and what we project onto this screen of space can be so scary and negative for us and very unsatisfying. Sphere number 7, for one thing, is equilibrated by sphere number 8, which we'll talk about next week. So Venus and Mercury are balancing to one another. But also sphere number 7 gets a lot of power from the sphere of mercy above it and from the sphere of beauty to the upper left of it. A lot of that power pours in to sphere number 7. So what that tells us is if we are having problems with using our creativity against ourselves, or we're creating things in our lives that are unacceptable to us, that are painful, that are scary, that are dissatisfying, reflect things like lack and poverty, those kinds of things, what we can remember is that the sphere of mercy above it and that solar light to the left of it are always poised and ready to pour their blessings right into our ability to create if we let them, if we ask for them. So when we are having experiences that we don't love, rather than blaming the screen of space for it, we can say, well, there's part of my ability to create that is at odds with myself, that I'm using my creative power against myself. So rather than simply only trying to change my thoughts, which we talked about earlier, I can also call upon a higher power. I can call upon that solar light. I can call upon the sphere of mercy above me too. I can call upon that higher power and say, I'm using my power against myself. I'm creating things that I don't want to see. I'm creating things that aren't real. Please help me. Please help me. And then we start to receive. And then we can start to receive not only instruction about how to create better, but we can also receive images that we want to recreate that are images of the truth. Like we said before, if you can be that photorealist painter where you are creating an expression of infinite intelligence's will for you, rather than images that are at odds with infinite intelligence's will for you. So sphere number 7 is the sphere of victory, but it can also be the sphere of illusion because we are capable of using our own power of creativity against ourselves. And that's where we get tripped up with things like lusting after results, lusting in general on sphere number 7. It's not that lust is evil, but lust is looking at form as if it's content. You lust after bodies. You lust after results. You lust after objects. You lust after money. You lust after things, not desiring what those things represent. So very often in sphere number 7, we can get very caught up in looking at appearances rather than essences. But if we call upon those higher powers to start having our creativity be used on behalf of infinite intelligence rather than on behalf of our ego. Because remember, what our ego is? Simply Frankenstein's monster. Okay, it's our own creativity used against ourselves, and then it appears like it has a life of its own, and we can't seem to get it back under control. We can't get it under control by ourselves, but we can call on a power that understands that it's not real, and then allow our powers of creativity to be used on behalf of infinite intelligence rather than on behalf of that ego. Because remember, the ego is programmed to separate, separate, separate. So problem after problem, pain after pain, separation after separation, all the kinds of proof in the world that we can come up with that we're not good enough, that we'll never make it, that we're all by ourselves. That's what the ego wants to prove is true. And so it uses our powers on sphere number 7 to create experiences and forms in our lives to prove that it's right. But if we dedicate sphere number 7 to the truth of ourselves, and we call on that solar light, and we say, I want to see the truth instead of this, then we can start seeing things differently and start creating forms and experiences that reflect the truth about who we are instead. So whether we use our creativity on behalf of our ego versus our soul, that is a choice that we can make. And that's a choice that we are confronted with again and again and again. But very frequently, we don't even realize that we are creators, that we are co-creating our experience. We are artists all the time. YHVH Tzabaoth. God is the God of hosts. God is the God of hosts. How those hosts interact with us is up to us. What we perceive, though, that host to be or that army to be is up to us. Because infinite intelligence's will for us is happiness. The ego's will for us is separation and death. And what we decide that we want is up to us. But we have to know that we have a choice, and we forget that we have a choice. So sphere number 7 is our ability to create, and how we use that ability to create and how we use our artistic powers is completely up to us. And it's also up to us to remind ourselves frequently that we do have a choice. Thank you so much for spending a little time with me today. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.